and welcome back to Life as We Know It. As I said, we will be looking at the climate crisis. So to discuss this, I was joined in the studio by two awesome guests. I will not introduce them, I will let them introduce themselves. Here they are.
Thank you so much. My name is Boniface Mwangi. I'm an agri entrepreneur. I'm the founder of Green and Grain Harvest Venture, and you'll be hearing more from me.
Wonderful.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Dazowich. I am also an entrepreneur and environmental advocate. Yes.
Interesting. So get ready, get prepared to listen and know more about them. Anyway, so we are talking about the climate crisis, and Kenya has not been left behind by the massive climate crisis that has been going on throughout the world. And Kenya, being a third world country, is not a major contributor to this. However, it still has a great role to play in this. So that is what we will be discussing. So as we talk about life as we know it in relation to climate crisis, can you tell me, how would you compare life, how life was when you were growing up and how it is now in relation to the climate crisis and the economy and agriculture?
Oh, that's interesting because when I was growing up in the 80s, somewhere in rural Kenya, we had rains that were coming in almost at the very exact time when they were predicted. We had long rains coming in April, and we had short rains coming in October. And even farmers where I grew up knew that rains are coming at a certain time, so they would prepare their farms. And it was very, very, very nice time. Even if you remember when we had the classic safari rally, that used to happen around the long rains of April. It used to happen because there were rains, and it was a very good environment for doing what they were doing. But right now, as we're speaking, things have changed. It's only this year that we have seen a very long delay of the what we call short rains.
True, very
It
true.
was supposed to come in October. They have come in almost December, and that has affected a lot of farming activities.
True.
Yeah.
I would mostly agree with Boniface. I mean, just a decade later, growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, I'd say that, as he said, the rains were very predictable. When they were estimated is when they'd show up, and all I remember was a lot of the warm weather in early Januaries and September also being very warm, and actually Christmas not having rain. It's very it's very strange being an adult and seeing rainy Christmas or seeing cold Christmases. It's almost like you are abroad without the snow. But yeah, it's if you're looking at this year, 2021, I'd say it was a very, very cold year, and it's very strange to see Kenya be that cold because we are on the equator. It's a very well-known country for warmth and good climate. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think Kenyans are awake to this? Because this is an effect of climate crisis. Do you think Kenyans all over the country can actually say there is a change?
Maybe before we even speak about our own space here in Kenya, we need to look at the global, what is happening, because this climate change has to be, it doesn't have to be ambiguous. First of all, we need to understand from a layman's point of view, what is it that we're dealing with. We're dealing with the planet becoming warmer.
True.
Temperatures raising.
True.
And they're raising because of we are producing greenhouse gases that are affecting the ozone layer, that makes sure that our globe or our planet is colder.
True.
If I was to say so. So because of these greenhouse gases that are being released from different quarters, whether it's our farms, whether it's our animals that are producing carbon dioxide, then it is affecting the temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
And so the experts of climate are saying this is even going to be to become worse
True.
as time goes by.
100%.
If we don't do something.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to our own situation here in Kenya,
Mm-hmm.
then it's a very unfortunate situation because first of all, the level of awareness is still very low. We are trying to work with farmers who actually even don't understand what's happening around them. We're trying to work with governments who don't understand or don't even care what is happening around them.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have this mixture of aspects,
Mm-hmm.
then it becomes a very dicey place to be,
Mm-hmm.
because we are not seeing that what activities we are doing are affecting the generation that is going to come.
Very
We have not
interesting.
experienced situations like what you've seen in the States,
Mm-hmm.
where you see a whole acreage of forest going down into fire.
Very interesting sentiments there. I'd like to hear more from Des, but when you come back after the short commercial break.
Everybody's coming to the interstellar party. Biddy bing, bing, biddy bing, bing, biddy bing. Hey, 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 hey. Everybody's happy in my super, super party. Biddy bing, bing, biddy bing, bing, biddy bing. Hey, hey, hey. Everybody's happy in my super, super party. We really, really like it in your interstellar party.
Welcome back to Life as We Know It. The theme is the climate crisis. So I will be reading some of the comments that you have been sending on social media. Sumaya says, very good topic and very well articulated. Thank you so much, Sumaya. And we have a Facebook post from Joanne who lives in Upper Hill. She says, it's a good thing to shed light on such an issue. It's time for us as Kenyans to raise the appropriate awareness on climate change. I repeat, the climate crisis is not a government project, just as Boniface said. Now, another question for our guests. Like you said, I repeat again, the climate crisis is not a government project. So what can you recommend for people to do? What would you say is the responsibility of the Mwananchi? Besides awareness and knowing, besides awareness and knowing and picking the garbage, what would you say is their responsibility towards aiding the problem that we face right now?
Well, what needs to happen,
Mm-hmm.
like I said in the earlier discussion that we had, is that we have solutions,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them. Every day there is a solution to what we are experiencing. Some of the solutions are as little as even just taking out your garbage and sorting it out.
True.
Because like I said, I work with a lot of compositing, where I create my own fertilizer, manure and all that. But the biggest challenge is when I go to the source of my waste, it's not sorted.
True.
So that's something you can do. It's a responsibility that you can do at household level.
Sure.
When it comes to farmers doing regenerative agriculture, one of the key areas that we are doing is agroforestry, because we realize most farmers have a piece of land that is they farm, whether they're doing maize or vegetables or whatever they're farming, but the land is bare, meaning there is no trees.
There's no tree.
So if we're gonna have to mitigate climate change, we need to have that level of individual responsibility at the very least, at the household level, at the farm level, so that now that can come. It's sort of a bottom up thing. It has to come from the wananchi themselves. They have come to the public, going up, because the moment that is taken care of, on your own responsibility, you have done your part. Then the government will do their part, the corporations will do their part, and everybody else will do their part.
True.
Yes, it's as simple as that.
As simple as that. So
Yeah.
what Boniface is saying is sort your waste. Before you throw out the garbage, whichever day the garbage gets collected in your neighborhood, sort the waste. It's really simple. If you had a banana peel and you unwrapped something that is plastic, don't throw them both in the same bin. I mean, also this compost you can also use it in your household, right? What do you think?
I think you should look at it from the perspective of your own house. Think of the planet or your nation as a house. In your house, you don't expect the government to come clean, to come clean for you, and even the people in your house, you expect them to take care of their own spaces. You'd expect if you have a child, take care of their own space. If it's the kitchen, that's a common area, but for the most part, there's typically the main people who take care of it, but you also shouldn't leave it messy. So when you're going outside, consider the little things, because it's the small things that make the bigger problems. So that small candy wrapper, that small plastic bottle, just carry it until you find a place to put it, preferably a recycling bin. And yeah, as Boniface said, it's a system. So if the smallest person is doing the biggest job, then the bigger people will also do the bigger jobs. So yeah, just consider it as your home, because it is your home. Yes.
It's so interesting because I was having the same conversation a few days ago, and I saw this person said it's just a straw, it's just one plastic straw, but that is what 7 million people in the world have said, and that's 7 million straws ending up in the sea.
Yeah.
So it's really, like Desma has said, it's the simple things, it's the small things. If it's one wrapper, if it's one plastic straw, that's one for every other human being in the world. And where do you think it's ending up? In the seas, destroying the planet. So we will take a few more questions from the audience at this point.
My name is Tina, and I have one question that I'm going to pose to you. So we just had the Glasgow conference that was held in Europe about a month ago. Do you think that we're going to see positive impacts in the world in the few years to come?
We'll take one more question.
So my name is Rogers Mwanza, and I'm asking, how much time do you think we have to stop climate change, or rather, how much time is left before climate change completely gets out of hand, and what will happen if we continue doing nothing? Thank you.
So we have two questions. The first one is, do you think there'll be any results from the recently held convention at Glasgow? Also, how much time do we have left as humanity? Let's start with Boniface this time.
Well, I'll start with the reverse. I'll start with the question of how much time do we have, so that now we can answer the question of whether Glasgow is going to help us or not. Some experts say that we have the next 20 years. If today is 2021, we have up to 2041 to put our act together. Beyond that, we are going to have it very rough. The experts are saying, it only takes just 1 degree of the temperature going up, and everything goes haywire. The world as we know it, the planet as we know it, has been able to maintain a certain temperature. You know, the millions of years that the world has existed. But that is starting to raise. From the 1960s, there's some institutions that have been doing a lot of mapping, work with big data, and they have been able to see how the temperature is raising over the years. Once we start experiencing the icing of the polar bears, both in the north and the south, then we'll be headed for a very disastrous time when our seas start raising, and you see cities like Mombasa just being submerged. And it's happened. It has happened in Baringo and Bogoria. I went there a couple of years back, and you know, it was nice doing the jet skiing and all that.
Flamingo.
Some of the hotels that we were there are no longer there. They've been submerged. What is happening? So the water levels are raising. We are also told like cities that are around the coastal line could be submerged in a few years to come. So in terms of time, we only have 20 years at the most. Critically 10 years. 2032 is a deadline. Then in terms of the global outfit of these declarations that have been done, I don't think it will help us until we take that individual responsibility
100%.
from again bottom up, going up. That's the only time. Because what is happening is every time there is this declaration, people think, oh, you know, the government will do something. Oh, the government is going to sort us. The government is busy
Campaigning.
campaigning and doing politics. You know, there's the narrative of hustling and narrative of Okoa that are. Imagine we are going to lose a whole year until we have a government in place in 2020.
Absolutely true to what he has said. The climate crisis has made worse an already bad situation. If you can remember, at independence, Kenya had three main problems: poverty, disease, and illiteracy. Almost 6 decades later, the problems are still the same, only worse. Why? Because of the climate crisis. What do you think, Desma? Do you think Kenyans are awake to this?
I think a very small percentage or a very small handful is aware of what's going on. And to the fact of either higher education or because of direct affection, like it is it is in their lives, so you
Mhm.
have to be aware of it,
True.
you know. But for the majority of the Kenyan population, I'd say slim to none.
Slim to none.
Slim to none, yes.
Absolutely. So, which brings me to my next question. Like, yes, things are happening, changes are taking place to life as we know it, but very few Kenyans are even awake to it. Do you think our government is doing much to aid this crisis that we are in, if anything at all? Do you think they're doing anything?
Well, it's only fair to say that if we give the government the whole role of climate change and mitigating climate change,
Mm,
then we'll have failed,
true.
because the government doesn't have that capacity
Absolutely.
to be able to do this. Climate change is a human problem. It's also a human solution. We have to think beyond even governments. We have to bring everybody on the table. Once we bring everyone on the table, then we have to make sure that when we bring these stakeholders on the table, each understands their role and what they are supposed to do.
Mhm.
A very good example would be if the government won't work well in terms of getting solutions that can be able to work. It's work with the private sector. A lot of people who are, especially myself, who is in agriculture, I need to have a stake in this climate change discussion,
True.
so that I can be able to tell the government
Mm.
these are some of the things that we could do. I am trying to champion something called regenerative agriculture, especially in our rural areas,
Mhm.
so that we create value chains that are more of circular economies.
Absolutely.
By circular economy, what I mean is you can be able to get produce from the farm, like the way I do with green and green harvest,
Mhm.
take it to the market or to the consumer.
Mhm.
That is a farm to plate sort of a value chain,
Mhm.
but also be able to give back to the planet that has given you that food.
Mhm.
So one of the areas that I'm working with is compositing,
Mhm.
to create compost, because you realize we have a lot of waste,
Absolutely.
a lot of waste that we don't know what to do
True.
with, or what to do about.
Mhm.
So this waste is going back to the soil,
Mhm.
so that we can sequester more carbon dioxide in the soil,
Mhm.
and that's part of. So climate change
Mhm.
is not a government project.
True.
To mitigate it is an everybody's responsibility.
Everybody.
Even in schools like where we are at right now,
Mhm.
institutions, we could be able to work with your friends. There's something that I saw that is very interesting. Somebody is doing seed balls, trees that are, they put trees seeds
Mhm.
in a sort of a ball that you go throughout there, so that you're able to
Oh,
plant more trees.
very interesting.
That is something you can do.
Everybody
Even
can
yourself,
do that.
everybody can do that.
And it's fun also.
It's fun.
Throwing balls.
Yeah, you go out there and throw balls with your friends, and,
Mhm.
and at the end of the day, you've done something. So there are so many solutions,
Mhm.
but they need to be approached with a very deliberate mind.
Yes.
Sometimes I don't think our governments are very deliberate.
True.
Yeah.
Des, what do you think?
I very much so agree with Bonfils. There's not one person or one entity that could be solely responsible for it, because they're not the only ones playing a part. Everybody plays a part. And I think the thing that the government could definitely do is put some incentive and initiative in
Mhm.
people. And if you include the private sector, then that definitely becomes easier. And if you include the schools,
Mhm.
it definitely becomes something worth attaining. Because I was telling this guys before we began that one of the things that really stuck with me about littering was it being taught to me in class 3.
Mhm.
I do not know if the new curriculum teaches kids about conservation or protecting the land,
Mhm.
but just understanding the effect of what something does, that in itself makes you want to do better, because if you know
Definitely.
better, you do better.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. You have heard what they have said, you have heard what everyone has said, And the information is out there. All the information in the climate crisis, on the environment, on what we're talking about, this is just a tip of the iceberg on what is happening and what you can do. So self-educate and aspire to be the change that you want to see.
Good morning.
Dad, vitamin B2 ni nini?
Vitamin B2 zinapatikana kwa Ilara Fresh Milk. Na unahitaji hizo vitamins kila siku kupata energy, yani mawowo.
Mawowo. Mawowo ya kucheza, mawowo ya kuruka, mawowo ya kuswing, mawowo ya kudunk.
Mawowo. Ilara Fresh Milk, jijaze mawowo.
Welcome back to the show. So we are still talking about the climate crisis. At this juncture, we shall get questions and comments from the audience.
Hello to our esteemed guests. My name is Chelsea Lunahwa. I come from Western Kenya. So my question is, we recently observed in Mwingi a great tragedy where a whole bus collapsed inside a river that was swollen as it was trying to cross to the other side, yeah? And this river is said to have been swollen because of floods. So my question is, how can we as Kenyans be better prepared to handle some of the tragedies that could arise because of climate changes? Thank you.
Very interesting question there. Is there anyone who would like to comment on that?
Can I?
You can go first.
Ladies first. Yes, please.
Thank you, Chelsea. First, I think I'd like to say, going back to the first question that you had asked about the government, I think this is where they take the biggest role in terms of protection and, providing better equipment and roads for people. Prevention is usually better than curing, and if we had better streams or better ways to protect the floodplains, and build roads outside of that and build bridges that are higher than that, then definitely it would have been less of a tragedy. So yes, I'd say that the government should take its role here.
This is now their project, yes?
This is now their project. This is where we step in.
Boniface, what would you say?
Okay, it's a question of responsibility. So our governments need to be well aware that where we are heading, we have a lot of so-called climate disasters that are brought around by climate change.
True.
And so what they need to do is to mitigate some of these catastrophes, is to make sure that they are well prepared in advance for such eventualities. By preparing, I mean even taking action, like having to understand data, how to work with data. Because I know the river that is in question did not start flooding today. Even right
100%.
even right here as we are speaking, say 100 kilometers from here, just around Isinya,
Mm-hmm.
we experience the same thing. You know, there's rain in the Gong forest that is coming down to the lower plains, and you've had animals being carried, you have had people being carried. So it's just mitigating that. You have to work with data.
Mm-hmm.
The meteorological department knew that there will be some sort of heavy rains around that time. So what did the person in charge or the person charged with that responsibility do about the data that he had?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a question of managing systems
Mm-hmm.
to be able to make sure that everything is in order.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you remember, what I told you is we have not experienced disasters like what you have seen out there.
In Australia.
Forest fires,
Kuwait.
the floods.
Mm-hmm.
We have not. So, God forbid if something like that was to come our way,
Mm-hmm.
because it will mean more people dying,
True.
it will mean more destruction.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, in their countries, they have systems that have been put in place
Mhm.
to make sure that there is disaster management, to
True.
all that.
True.
Yeah.
Interesting answers, you know, because I feel like in Kenya we always wait for things to happen before we can actually come up with solutions. But anyway, we'll get more questions from the audience. In the meantime, send your comments and answers to 255 and keep the conversation going on social media. The hashtag is life as we know it. One more question from the audience.
Okay, good morning. I only got to raise a question of concern. So I'm Tony Mutunga from Seagates Foundation. Do you think there are any global cartels that are manipulating the climate change by use of dangerous chemicals that they release to the environment, and in that time they use that opportunity to provide and sell resources to certain areas that have faced the crisis?
A very good question.
Very good question. I agree, because in the beginning I say that the problem that we're facing, that is climate crisis, has been the major contributors for this are the first world countries. Yet the third world countries are paying the biggest price for this. But please answer the question, will you?
Yeah, of course, in every crisis,
Mm-hmm.
there are opportunists. So even in this climate crisis, we have opportunists. We have cartels that will try to, manipulate the situation to their advantage. But over and again is the question of, do we have laws that can be able to mitigate, that can be able to make sure that these people are handed over to the authorities. There's a very interesting exhibition that is happening. I don't know if it's done at the Alliance. Somebody went out with a camera to Lake Victoria to see some of this destruction that has been happening.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see there companies releasing raw
Waste.
into the lake, not knowing that that lake is a livelihood of so many people.
True.
So many countries
True.
depend on that water.
And also so many organisms and animals live inside that water.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Even the problem that we are having of fish coming from, instead of us producing our own fish, we are importing fish from China.
Really?
It's the same.
Made in
the same-
China.
The same issues. Because the lake is not producing fish like the way it used to do.
Mhm.
Somebody brought hyacinth. I don't know for what reason, and that has killed the lake.
Mhm.
So some of these things you never know. They could be having maybe some benefit to a few people,
Mhm.
but we need to work together.
We need to work together, true.
Yeah.
Des, what do you think?
I don't necessarily know about cartels, Mutunga, but what I could say is there are opportunists, as Bonfas mentioned, and looking at it in a global perspective, I would say that there's definitely companies out there that know the effects that they have on exploiting resources in terms of fishing or just land use, and even oil spills. Now they've reduced, but overall this still affects the way the planet works, the way Mother Nature works. The cycle is not the same. Things have been disrupted, and I mean what's the word? They're taking advantage of it because, of course, you have to make money and you have to be on top. So it's for selfish and gluttonous reasons. But if there was enough and you had time to not only just exploit but also add into the environment, then I think that would be a safer way to do it. But nobody wants to do it the safe way, because the more the merrier, and the more you get, the better it is for you. But yeah, so if we consider the livelihood of these environments, the smallest organisms to the biggest ones, then I think it would do us good.
True.
Yeah.
I think those are such brilliant answers. So at this juncture, I bring you to a section we call Vibes, where we give you a dose of sunshine with some good news of what someone out there is doing positively to impact the environment and the world around him. Have a look. Anyway, thank you so much at home for joining us. Thank you to our live audience for being with us throughout the show and for the comments and the questions and everything. Thank you for being a part of the show, and thank you to our sponsors, Daystar University, for giving us the space and the platform and everything that we needed to make this show a success. And finally, thank you to our guests for being here. You are gems. I treasure you so much, and I hope to hear more from you. And you can follow, we will let you know their social media handles so that you can have a look at their work and also keep in touch with them and also learn from them. They are such brilliant minds. So up next, as we conclude the show, I told you we have an artist. Her name is Kimani, and she is a spoken word artist. You are not prepared for this, so sit back, relax, and enjoy this wonderful performance.
Cool breeze mtaani ni rare, na cool breeze kwa mababi wamezoea. Mtaani upepo huku ikiwa imebeba mapepo, na over the years imekuwa ngoli. Jube ya bidhaa imekuwa ikipanda, na siwe menyewe tumesahau kupanda miti. Blue economy imedisappear in the blues, green economy imedisappear in the bush. Tumesimama kwa wale tunafaa kusimamia. I stand for the world I stand on. I'll give you a plus if you don't drop that plastic. My love language is not red, it's green. Kijani kibichi. And when you take care of me nakuwa greener. Nataka tusitupe takataka. Nataka tusitupe kwenye taka. Nataka miti tusikate, nataka urayure mere global warming dega tuhade miti tuhade na greener pastures tupate. I go by the name the key to the money.